Well, national carrier Nigerian Air will begin operations very soon. Well, that's according to Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika. The minister says about 400 million naira has been spent in preparing for its takeoff and not billions as widely reported. Nigerian Air will launch with a shuttle service between Abuja and Lagos. Other domestic destinations will follow after. The minister also confirmed Ethiopia Air as a core investor.
Nobody shut them out. They chose this fiefdom thing to this I own it by myself as alter ego thing to continue. Well, I'm old enough. Of course, sorry, Captain Dako, I know you're older in the business, but I'm old enough to be here when the airline business was liberalized. Nigeria Airways was existing, and other airlines were existing.
All right, let's deepen the conversation now as the spokesman of the Airline Operators of Nigeria and CEO of United Airlines, Obiora Okonkwo, joins us on Newsnight. Thanks so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it would be nice to get your reaction, of course, to this Nigerian Air that's coming on stream sooner than later. And I'm very curious that only one bidder actually showed interest. Does that indicate anything?
Well, I wouldn't know what requirements were, but usually, knowing the lucrativity of the Nigeria aviation industry, over 200 million people, we believe in the industry that if we evaluate it by what is called grandfather right, that is the market value, it should be in the neighborhood of about 300 billion US dollars. 300 billion US dollars. So if for any reason the promoters of this Nigerian Air are setting up a special purpose vehicle of 350 million US dollars like I had, and then giving 49% share out there, and only one person or one company showed interest, then that's quite suspicious, because it should be more lucrative enough for people to be running all over their heads. So it boils down to what we're saying. There are probably still more to this than meet the eyes. We want to see more transparency. We have so many questions that are still waiting for answers. And I watched a little clip of the minister, who is a very good friend to the industry. The industry is very lucky to have him as an aviator and as the minister. He has really been quite responsive to most of our things. But in this particular case, this is not about the operators. It's just about the structure of business that is still not clear to us. And we're asking some questions. And these questions are out of patriotism.
All right. Now, talking about questions that you have to ask, I also have a very important question here. And mine is, how do we ensure continuity? I mean, this is going to happen whichever way we look at it. But how do we ensure continuity and guarantee as this regime comes to an end? Let's also just bear in mind what played out, of course, with Virgin Nigeria and the KLM experience. What do you think is going to play out here?
Well, it's not for me to answer. I should ask the promoters, because when some people talk about airlines failing in Nigeria, I'm glad that you mentioned that Virgin Nigeria also came and failed. KLM experience came and failed. So they fail not because you have Nigerian operators who want to have a feeling of ownership. That's not really right. That's not a fair assumption of what the situation is. Our environment is hostile, and it is in the same way it affects not only aviation industry, a whole lot of other people, especially with policy somersault, inconsistencies. So for how long this will last, it's not for me to say.
Sorry, but is that hostility part of the reasons why we're not seeing many investors, just like, Ngozi had alluded earlier on? Is that why we're seeing just one key player here? What is your biggest fear as a local player?
Is it as concerns Nigerian Air?
As concerns Nigerian Air, yes.
Well, my concern is that there are certain things about that setup that required some more clarifications. For instance, at first we hear that the partnership is coming from with what they call wet lease.
Right.
So let me make it simple, because for people who are not in the industry, this is like it's a big deal. Either you're coming in the partnership with wet lease or dry lease. United Nigeria can do that with Ethiopian Airlines. In fact, I have on my table many offers from Ethiopian Airlines, different aircrafts for either wet lease or dry lease. Airpeace can go into that. So whether you are doing each of that, it does not give you right of equity, because all it means is that if I wet lease you, you bring both your cabin crew and your cockpit crew, and you do the maintenance. You sum up the money and I pay. If it's dry lease, you give me the aircraft, I operate, I maintain, I bring my crew, and I pay you for hours fly. That's it. And in any of those, it does not guarantee you equity in my own business. And let me let you know, this is not just about saying Nigerian companies can fund the industry. No, 90% of operators around the world, whether it's British Airways, whether it's Emirates, they don't own the aircrafts. They lease it. They have a leasing company. There are usually equity companies, investment companies that take these aircraft from the manufacturers. They don't even pay the manufacturers 100%. They have staggered payments. So they take it and lease it to these big operators. So these big operators now operate, pay what they have to pay, and return. For most of us in Nigeria who pay cash for our aircraft, you buy aircraft that are coming out of, for the aircrafts that operate today are coming out from United.
Right.
And they were returned to the lessors. So this is not like a big deal. And let me tell you, all this setup that are being glamorized in Nigeria can be done by any private operator. So our question is this. This airspace is so huge for many people to operate. As we speak today, there is not less than 20 applications for AOC under processing by NCA. So if this thing goes through, then you see more operators. The more the merrier. But the question is, you may have also heard from even the regulators and the managers like FAN and NCA crying out that the facilities we have are not enough for the number of operations that we're carrying.
So what do you foresee with this Ethiopian Airlines partnering with Nigerian Air? It may just end up the way others did. But how exactly will this Nigerian Air and Ethiopia coming in affect local airlines? We have some of you stakeholders, who are operating in the domestic sector are saying if government can take a 5% stake in this, Nigerian Air, why doesn't it do the same for all other airlines? Help us understand exactly how this will affect.
No, I don't need government to take stake in my own company. I don't think anybody does. We're just simply saying that the value for which they had placed our Nigerian aviation industry to attract that foreign investment is very, very minimal. And for it to be very minimal is suspicious.
Okay.
We know what the industry is. To you, as a news broadcaster, any other Nigerian industry, it might sound like, wow, a big deal. There is just no big deal. And let me make it clear. This offer that Ethiopian Airlines is coming with today has been made to Airpeace some years back. Airpeace would have been ripping out this country, but out of patriotism, he said it's not good. You are aware that some weeks back, we had to face a threat from different foreign operators about 500 something million US dollars. This is an addition to that. But if we had sat down and listened to the cries of the local operators and then attended to the needs, there is absolutely nothing in this business that we cannot do and even fly outside And that money we are paying to foreign operators we're making the money from outside that will be repatriated into Nigeria.
What are the local airlines, asking for? What have been their demands that government is not meeting? And are you saying that Nigeria should not go ahead with this plan with Ethiopian Airlines? After all, it's the biggest airline in Africa, one of the biggest in the world.
Well, it's not in our position to tell government what to do.
What would be the ideal thing?
But we're only simply saying that the way the business is being structured, there are more questions that demand some answers.
Those questions we want to know.
First of all, what value are you placing on the business? Because if you say somebody is taking 49%, another person 5%, X amount of money, what is the share capital? What is the percent contribution? Whether it is sweat equity, whether it is direct investment or equipment. If you are talking about wet lease or dry lease, why is the person taking an equity when you already have fixed amount of money you are paying the person every year? Most of the airlines are doing that on a monthly basis. But those people who own those aircraft they are leasing are not partners in their business. And I can tell you, 80% of Ethiopian airline equipment, aircrafts, are on lease.
Okay. Well, just as we're winding up,
but those people are not equity.
Well, just before we let you go, I mean, you mentioned a very key point. It almost seems as if Nigerian Air coming on board is just coming to meet the problems that already exist. My question is, do we really need this, really? Do we really need a Nigerian Air? So when you take into consideration the issues bedeviling Nigeria's aviation sector at this time?
You see, for us in the industry, we're seeing that as another airline. Whether it's Nigerian Air, whether it is any other air, it's not a big deal. The market is large for everybody. Yes. But for you to bring in foreigner into our own business and make them a director, air travel in any country is a national security issue.
And that's
for me to be approved to be a director of my own company, I had to pass through national security clearance. Right. That's one. In the midst of our foreign exchange shortages, do we need to open up another channel for endless outflow of foreign exchange? Yes. Thirdly, Ethiopian Airlines is owned by Ethiopian government. It's not a private business. It's Ethiopian government. So are you now relying on the Ethiopian government to come and capitalize an airline called Nigerian Air, though you say Nigeria owes 5%? Because if you owe a minority share in a business, it's not yours. You're a minority shareholder. So is somebody putting, that's what we're saying, are you putting a coat of Nigerian Air to get away with something? Because we're also bothered about some line of privileges already known to us that are waiting for this airline that has not even come on board.
We're going to have to end it on that particular note. Thank you so much for your insights on this matter. We've been speaking to the spokesman of Airline Operators of Nigeria and CEO of United Airlines, Obiora Okonkwo. Time now for a quick break.